Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
What's going on? Welcome in. Hello, hello, hello.
Hi,
We
everybody.
live. We live.
We's live.
Oh my gosh. Well, good afternoon. It's Friday.
Friday. It's
Mm,
Friday.
Shoulders. Yeah, I'm excited. It's Friday. Just another week. Check.
Yes.
Yes, yes, for sure.
The
So, how you
last
doing today,
day.
Miss Kim?
It's the last day of September. That means tomorrow is October. So I am glad to just be off. And we were actually planning to have a health and wellness day at church yesterday, tomorrow.
Oh, oh,
But because of the threat of Hurricane Ian and the
right.
forecast on Wednesday, we postponed it to November.
Oh, yeah.
Now
So
it's
many
not
things have
even
been
supposed to,
canceled, and
yeah, and now
yeah.
it's not even seemingly coming this way.
It doesn't look like we're even gonna get rain, like
Right.
nothing, not even rain.
So, but that means I
Yeah.
have tomorrow off and I can actually wash clothes and clean my house.
I mean, that's a good way to start the month off,
Yeah.
I mean, to have that time. Actually, it's kinda nice.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was supposed to do, I was going to Taste of Tucker. Tucker has a really nice thing
Hmm.
every year, and so
Hmm.
they postponed just to the 15th. It's not too far off, but
Hmm.
that's Emory homecoming weekend, so I might miss it, or maybe me and my girls will go because it's during
Yeah.
the day. Well, no, but it's during the day when they normally have some stuff. Anyway, but that was postponed because of the weather. And then I kept checking the weather, and you're right. It's not even, sometimes even if it doesn't come our way, we get the outer bands of rain.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's not even on the forecast for that.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm thankful for it, but I know a lot of plans have been changed by organizations and churches,
Hmm.
so I know they're
Yep.
kind of aggravated, but you can't predict it. If you don't cancel it and then something happens and
Right. Right. And
people,
we're partnering with a organization that like sets up everything. So
oh,
kind of
okay.
wanted to just didn't want to have invested all of that money and resources
Sure.
to it and then not people not be able to come.
Yeah, I think that's what the Taste of Tucker was thinking too, because it's all these different restaurants and bands, and because they have live music and bouncy house, like they have a whole kids area, so it's multiple
Mhm.
hands in the pot, and to have all of, and then of course with the restaurants, their cost is the food. They're preparing all these samples, and
Mhm.
what if they want to prepare all this stuff and they have to throw it out or
Right.
whatever. So
Yep.
yeah. Hey, truck driver, how are you? Are you on the
Driver.
road? Hopefully, we were just talking about the about Hurricane Ian and how it's kind of moving and not coming. It was supposed to come this way, or at least some portion of the rain, but it's not anymore. But hopefully, wherever you are, truck driver, you're not getting any of it and you're safe.
Mhm.
I think right now it's on its way to. They're saying Savannah, Myrtle Beach, like is going to get something. I don't know.
Mhm.
But they said headed straight for South Carolina. So
I know. I
think,
said, okay, well, better safe than sorry. I mean, I had to make a judgment call on it. So we
yeah.
went ahead and moved everything and rearranged with the vendors and all that stuff.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. And at that time of November, no threat. Typically, no threats of hurricanes and stuff. So
mhm. Yeah.
yeah. And how often does this happen to us? I
Right.
mean,
Right.
so you have to be prepared. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And that October 15th weekend is Clark's homecoming that weekend too.
Yeah, I know because it's your girl Kim show invited me to come to the
Mhm.
thing
On
Fro sisters
Thursday. Mhm.
on Thursday. So I have to check and see when my girls are coming in town.
Mhm.
But if they'll be, I think one will be here, and she's actually staying with me. The other's staying with another friend.
Mhm.
But the one that's staying with me, I think she comes in on Thursday. So we may make that sort of
Okay.
our kickoff. I don't know. I have to see when she's going to be here because it
Mhm.
might be that she's flying in and arrives right
Mhm.
when the party is happening. So I need to
Yeah.
check with her and
Yep.
see. Yeah. Are you going?
I probably will be going. It's Sigma Chapter's 91st anniversary, so all of our 90th anniversary stuff got canceled last year
Oh.
because they
Oh.
shut out everybody. Only students could attend homecoming, no alumni.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
had to shift everything to this year. I still hadn't paid my money yet, so I will see.
Gotcha.
I don't, the older you get, you just kind of like, I
I
don't know.
know. My first question a lot of times is, do I have to? And then I'm like, oh wait, okay, yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
my
my
first thought.
anniversary. It's
Do
the
I have to?
chapter's anniversary. And
Yeah.
maybe I can do the stuff that's not necessarily on campus because my line sister doesn't really want to do the parade, the tailgating. The
Yeah.
tailgating is a whole thing. And I don't know that she's like, I'm over it. I'm like, I'm kind of over it too.
I don't blame you.
I'm kind of over
Yeah.
it.
Hey babe, my husband's in the chat. Hey T Breezy.
Damn! Hey.
Truck driver, I'm glad you're safe. I'm glad you're not driving somewhere where the weather is kind of funky. So
Yeah.
good for you. I'm glad. Hopefully you're on your way home. I know this is around the time when you're making your way home for the weekend. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully you are on your way. So those of you who are just joining us, you notice spiritual thought leader is not with us today. She had another engagement. And
Mm-hmm.
so she's with us, maybe lurking, but with
Mm-hmm.
the spirit.
Yes.
But we're still happy to be here. We're happy that she, has arranged for us to still stream. So thank you all for being here today, and welcome to all of you.
Yes.
So on the grief front, which is what we're here for, Kim, how have you been feeling? Anything to share or any revelations? Let's
I
just
had an
have a little free
interesting,
for
we
all.
had another member to pass away. And so yesterday I had the consult with the family. And as I've stated, I always kind of end the consult with just asking them how they're doing and just give them an opportunity to share. Sometimes they cry, sometimes they're, oh, we're good, we're good. And I'm like, no, you're not, but okay.
Yeah.
And I always talk about this myth about being strong. And when I
Yeah.
shared that, what the sister whose mother, her mother passed, so it was a brother, sister, the dad,
Mhm.
the two sister-in-laws on the call. And
Mhm.
when I shared that, she was just like, oh my God, could you say that again for somebody on this call? Because every time somebody tells me that I need to be strong, I get really angry because I just lost my mom. So how dare you tell me I need
Right.
to be strong? I am the weakest I've ever been in my entire life. And she starts screaming.
Oh boy.
Like lets it all out. And her
Wow.
family is on the call. There's a couple people, dabbing tears, the
Mhm.
husband dabbing tears, but she is screaming.
Wow.
And then there's other people that are sitting there like,
Mhm.
and she's like, I'm gonna need help because I don't
Wow.
know how I'm gonna be able to do this. And
Wow.
of course, I then started talking about, okay, here are all the resources that we have available. Know that you can have a Stephen minister for as long as you need one.
Mhm.
It's a year commitment, a 2-year commitment, this, that, and third. It's whatever you need, we have it. And she's like, thank you so much.
Wow.
Because I think this is the first time I've ever asked for help and somebody said
Wow.
they could help me. And I was like, wow. So
Mhm.
just giving voice. And I said, so at the end of it, I said, you guys have my permission to grieve,
Mhm.
to not hold it in, to not, try to suppress it. Because she had been ill for a while and they literally made the call that morning. So she died on the 27th. And they text me to say they're moving her to hospice today. And she never
Oh.
actually made it to hospice. She
Oh.
died before the hospice people came to transport her.
Okay.
So, but she'd been ill for quite some time.
Mhm.
So, it'll be, and trying to get my two new clergy mates to be available to serve. They were like, "Oh, I have something next Friday." I'm like, "I'm sorry. It's not optional
Right.
for
Right.
you to be present."
Need to be there.
So I started with one because I only need one thing. I've got all the other spots covered for the
Mhm.
service. And then I text the other dude, and he's like, "Oh, normally I would be, but that's the weekend we're going to the mountains."
Oh wow.
Like, okay, you know what? I'll do it. Not a problem.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's been my week, just in prepping and planning and working.
Yeah.
We also had a member of our church who has stage 4 cancer, and he decided he doesn't want to do chemo anymore.
Wow.
And has really made peace with whatever the outcome is going to be. And so our pastor went to do communion and visit with him. And he's like, I'll be at church on Sunday because I'm just not doing it anymore. I'm not.
He had been doing chemo. He had been doing it. Now he's
for the last 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah. Every Friday. And then, of course, we'll take the weekend to try to recoup. But then by the time he feels halfway decent, it's Friday again. He's got to start all over
again. Yeah. It's a yucky cycle that chemo is, from what I understand. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So that's been my week. So I really honestly need Saturday to just kind of be. The rest of this afternoon and tomorrow to just kind of be.
Yeah. It sounds like it. So, I mean, it kind of worked out, even though it may not. I mean, this is what I feel too, though. Like, even though the forecast doesn't say it's going to rain, like I'm looking out the window now and I'm like, it looks
a little cloudy,
a little funky. So, I mean, who knows what might happen? I don't know. It's probably the best thing to do. And personally, for you, it's again, it's the first of the month. It's a good time to reset and repurpose and plan and focus for the rest of the, October's 31 days. So it actually kind of works out for you. So yeah, you can just kind of fall back a little bit and chill. Yeah. Especially coming off last week. And last week was such a whirlwind with, and you had other stuff outside of the Derby. So, it was a busy weekend. So to have this one coming up where you can kind of chill a little bit.
Yeah.
You need that too, for yourself. I cannot imagine dealing with, dealing sounds negative, working in a profession where you are supporting people who are grieving. I can't imagine the how that kind of pulls on you too, even though it's not your family, right? But to offer that support mentally, and then, like you said, offering support, like the resources they were saying they need for this and that, offering that, and and I'm sure, and sometimes it's more than one family at a time, right? So I can only imagine that you need to pause and pour back into yourself too. So this is a good weekend for it. Yeah.
So interestingly, I went to one of my cohorts that I'm a part of, a leadership cohort, on Tuesday, and there was a self-care component in the afternoon. And the statistics that she read to us says that there's been some research done that pastors are required to have 64 different competencies in order to be effective. And I was like,
what?
I said, did you say 6 to 4 or 64? Right. And she said, and she just bust out laughing and she said 64.
Wow.
And then she started reading through the articles about and naming all of these things, like pastors are supposed to be available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Whenever you need something, they're supposed to be available. They're not supposed to have, they're supposed to be there for you, but people very rarely consider who's there for them. I mean, she started reading this whole, and I was like, yeah, but that's dysfunctional. That might be an old model, but that's just really not how I'm trying to function.
And who can function? Not
nobody can. Right? Who has 64 different competencies that they're actually functioning in at the same time and being effective at that? Nobody.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. You cannot
have all of that. Yeah. So it was really interesting. It's like, what is
girl? It's a lot. Like, that's a lot.
Look,
yeah, that's too much.
I've learned how to try to put the mask on myself first before I can take care of others.
Well, I'm glad you do that because you share that with us often. So I'm glad you are doing that for yourself because you've shared that with us and as a suggestion to others. So I'm glad that you're taking your own advice and doing it for yourself. It's important though. It is important. Yeah.
Hey, Stacy, welcome.
DJ Stacy, blessed ones here. How are you, sweetheart? How's it going?
Yes, hugs.
You had a rough go of it these last few weeks. Well, a while, but sort of some of it coming to a head. Last week and the week before last, because we weren't on last week. So when we talked to you, that was 2 weeks ago. So Let us know in the chat how you're doing. Everybody out there, let us know how you're doing today, how you're feeling. Hopefully you're all feeling pretty good. And if you're not, let us know that too. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
I read on Instagram, my fave.
Yes.
This is the page is called Refuge in Grief. Refuge in Grief. And I think, let me see how it starts off. I just pulled it up. It was a little quote. I don't think it's a poem or anything. But before I could go on with that, let me read what Truck Driver said. This week was kind of rough for me. For some reason, I wanted to fight. And last night, my sister visited me and we had a long talk. So glad she calmed me down. Yeah, I mean, sometimes, you know what? Sometimes I think, I don't know. I feel like sometimes our anxiety about grief or the loss, or we feel the loss and we feel kind of lonely without certain people, or there's something, and then it sort of turns into anger and angst in a way. So Truck Driver, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I'm glad you had support in your sister in helping calm you down. It's funny because I love when you tell your stories and you always have, like, there's always a way. Like, you always say, I came to good grief, or in this case, my sister was there. I'm so glad that you have mechanisms in your life that help you sort of come back to yourself and kind of calm down. And I like that you share that with us, because it can come full circle. You could feel that way and you own it. I felt like fighting, like Pastor Pam said, I fight asses. Right? I mean, we get that, but you come around with it and say, but I did this. I spent time with my grandkids or my wife and I calmed down. I talked to my sister. I had a couple of shots of crap, whatever. I love that you share with us the fullness of it, because sometimes some of us get stuck just at that, whatever that sadness or anger or hurt is. And I want people to know that they can come around, and come out of that in some ways. So thank you for sharing that. Rebel, I'm glad you're feeling good today. Your stream was amazing.
Yes.
Today, as always.
I need that shouting video in the Discord, please.
Sis was back there. She was.
You want me to go in? Let me see a white woman shout in the corner by herself. Just that'll take me in every time. Just will.
Oh, okay, right. So Truck Driver, that's what I was thinking, that when you said visited you, I felt like, or your sister. Yeah, I felt it was your sister that had passed. Okay. Yeah. And that is really, I think, a beautiful thing too, that you can receive that. You honor that and see it and receive the blessing of her presence in that way. So thank you also for sharing that. I thought that was the case, but I wasn't.
Yeah, I was just about to clarify it. So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that video is hilarious. They were looking at the one lady that was standing closest to her, looked at her like she was like shall we do a little fence around her? Or should we
exercise? To do the fence in? Do we need to? What do we need to do? Because we don't know what to do.
I don't know. Yeah.
Leave her alone. Leave her alone.
That's exactly. Leave her alone.
Leave her alone.
Yeah. Yeah. T Breezy, what are you doing? You said, hey, babe. That's my husband, y'all, for those who you're like, hey, who's this hey, babe? Yeah, that's my husband saying hi. How's your day going, Timothy? I hope you're having a good day today. So yeah, I was talking about this quote. So it started off, it said, the truth is, and I want you all to tell me what you think about it. Let's chat about this. It says, the truth is, you are alone in your grief. You alone carry the knowledge of how your grief lives in you. You alone have to face this inside your own heart. And there's some other things as well, but we often say it and we hear it. You're not alone. You're not alone. And when I saw that, it made me pause. Like I had to you have to press the thing to make the whole thing on Instagram so you could see all the writing. And it really made me stop, because I had to make sure. I was like, did it mean you are not alone? Like maybe they left the not out, because that's what we always hear. And that is what we say here in our own stream, Good Grief, you are not alone. And for that, literally the first line to say, the truth is you are alone. And as I read more, they were talking about like even if you have a similar experience, like I've connected with, she's not here right at the moment, but I've connected a great deal with only one Mrs. Cox, and that we both, lost our moms and how close we were, and how we thought things might have been getting better, and then they're gone. And so we have connected on that, and we're not alone in that experience. And that's what they were saying. Even if the experience is similar, you're still alone in grieving that person and the way you grieve that person. Sure, other people are grieving them, like my husband grieves, the loss of my mom, and my stepdad, her husband, but we're all alone in those heart to heart feelings, my heart to hers, his heart to hers, her husband's heart to hers. It's different. And I thought it was fascinating that someone said the quiet part out loud. Because I do know, in terms of at least being able to be transparent and to share how I feel. And we, like I said, we say this all the time, you're not alone. But deep down in the heart of hearts, there are days where my grief, and I'm sure many of you, where it feels very lonely. And what I thought was interesting is it says, so there are two truths that can be held at the same time. The truth is you are alone, and the truth is also you are not alone. So I think it's true in that, yes, we have what we have here. We're not alone in voicing it and memorializing and honoring our loved ones. We can say their names out loud. You can type them in the chat. You can call on us, all of that. But that individual walk, that individual grief, it's there, and it can be lonely sometimes. STL, welcome.
Hey,
It's
STL.
welcome to your old stream, but hello.
Yes, welcome to your stream.
Right, welcome to your
Glad
stream.
you're here with us today.
Right. Oh my gosh, welcome to you. Be safe out there driving.
Yes.
DJ Stacey Blessed, one, going back up to what she said, I'm feeling numb and just existing. And that too can feel lonely. You're in a world of many people. You're in your own household, your job, in the grocery store, at church, and you, that one individual person, you just feel like, I'm just making it. That is lonely. That feels you feel like the only one, right? So I really thought that was brave. Refuge in Grief allows guest writers. And that was from a guest writer. And I thought it was very brave for them to talk about that and elaborate on that as well. Real quick, Miss Frosty. Hey, love, how are you? It was hard for me when I lost my mom, especially by me being an only child. Legit. That's me all day. Yeah, absolutely. T Breezy, each loss and experience is uniquely different, which causes distance sometimes. Absolutely. I agree with that as well. So yeah, let's chat about it. So those of you who are listening, and if you're able to type in the chat, do you identify with that you are not alone, but you are alone in your grief journey? Kim, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that statement because, the experience of grief is a universal thing, but the uniqueness of grief is an individual thing. And so in that uniqueness, you do feel alone because you and only you had that relationship with that person. And, I could have a relationship with somebody else could have a relationship with the same person, but my relationship with them was uniquely mine. Right. And just the way and the feelings that I have, the memories, the experiences, the parts of them that I miss, all of that are unique to me. So, yeah, I mean, it does feel really lonely because, and the case in point, I've not lost a parent, but I've lost my mom figure. And sometimes I used to feel like my grief wasn't as important as her children's grief. But she meant the world to me, and often spoke of, I have a daughter, but the things that you and I share, I can't share with her. So
Right.
I get to share this part of me with you.
Right.
And so that made our relationship unique. And even my own mom was like, I know that's your second mom, so I ain't about to come between y'all. When I needed mom time with her, my mother was good and not feeling any kind of way about that. So to not have that now, and even though there's a woman at my church that said, I know that I can't fill Miss Webb's shoes for you, but you're my daughter too.
Right.
I have a different relationship with her, Miss Kathy.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I grieve the loss of that relationship, and just me not feeling well or contemplating something or being worried about something, and her picking me up in the spirit and calling me like, I'm feeling you in the spirit. What's going on?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
then me breaking
It's a
down
special
crying
relationship.
and having to tell her all about it, and then her praying me through that moment. So
Mhm.
honestly, I don't have that now. That's gone.
Mhm.
So, it is a lonely space, and there's
Yeah.
other people that I believe God has sent, but the relationships are different. So
Yeah.
it's just not the same.
Yeah, for
Oh, we
sure.
have a raid.
Oh
Oh
my gosh.
my gosh.
It's like what our third raid maybe ever.
What?
Welcome, Raiders.
The GMB family, welcome.
Oh my gosh. Welcome, Uncle Diddy. Hi, everybody.
Hey,
Welcome. We
Auntie
hope you're doing
Diddy,
well. We are not spiritual thought
October,
leader.
Author Javonda. We are not STL. We have taken over STL's channel. Don't tell her,
Take
y'all.
over. Right, right. Welcome in Lady
Welcome, welcome.
J776, Star Summer Rose, Natty Nat. This is all family here. Auntie
Yes.
Diddy, October's own, Author Javonda. Welcome in, everybody.
Man, I
Thank
was
you so
coming
much for
back over
being
there after
here.
our stream. How y'all not on Uncle
Right.
Diddy? We got to talk. I needed to see my movie today.
Uncle Diddy was like, forget it. I'm playing music
He was
and
like, I'm
that's
playing
it.
music for my
Right.
mama
And I'm
today.
not mad at it because he was
I'm
jamming.
not mad. He was jamming.
Jackie, what's going on? How are you? Hey, team No Pants. That's my fam right
Need
there.
no pants. What's going on?
Hey, the Lion King.
Welcome,
Hello to you.
welcome.
Welcome in. How are you? Shelly Thunder, what's going on? How are you, love? Good to see you
Shelly
as well. I saw you
Thunder.
earlier.
Pow, pow, pow.
I didn't get a chance to say hey.
Yes.
So listen, everyone, this is Good Grief, is what we call this stream. And we are clearly on Spiritual Thought Leaders channel. She is in the chat en route she's out and about, has another engagement, but we're still here. And I am Crazy Berrytown, and my co-host this way, Kim Possible 711 somewhere. She's over there somewhere.
Yes, you were right.
Right. And so we in the stream, we talk about grief. Clearly we're not crying and falling out in our chairs, which me anyway, been known
We
to
have
do.
done. So
But we do have a good time though. But what we're here for, Good Grief, is a way to support each other in our grief journeys, whether it is loss of loved ones, jobs, pets, lifestyle abilities, physical abilities, whatever you're grieving. We are here to support you. We also encourage people. So some of you might be saying, that ain't me. Okay, pause. You might find a way to take something away from the stream and support others who are grieving. And that's one of the things that we love, is that we do have people that come in and stand in the light, stand in the gap and hold light for those who are grieving. Maybe someone you know, a coworker, a family member, and you come and learn some tips and strategies to support those of us who are grieving. So welcome to all of you. Once again, shout out to Uncle Diddy. Thank you so much for the raid.
yes.
All of you raiders, you all know what to do. Please refresh and host. Host it up.
And host while you can. This might be the last day.
I know we got like 3 more days before
Yes.
the hosting is over.
October 3rd. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you all so much for being here. Uncle Diddy, once again, thank you. We appreciate you.
Yay.
So we were talking about when you came in, the work. No, this isn't the workshop, Team No Pants. And that was earlier. I was doing a workshop from my job, and I was sitting there in the it's like Zoom, it's called WebEx, hoping nobody would show up, and like one person did. Anyway, so, so this is my second type of stream, I guess, for the day. But yeah, so I was hoping nobody came, but they did. So when you all walked in, we were talking about grief and how it's often, and it's common, particularly this is one of the reasons why we have this, is so people are not alone. You're not alone in your grief. We often talk about in this society, I'll just say American society. I don't know about other countries and cultures, but grief is sort of a, I don't know, even like taboo sometimes. It's rushed for many people. People are afraid to talk with others about grief. They're afraid to say, I'm sorry, or I'm sending condolences. People are weird about grief. And so we use this space so people feel like they're not alone. And I read on Instagram something that was fascinating, where someone said, but actually, we are alone. And Kim and I were just sort of chopping it up a little bit about what that means and how it is true that we are not alone. We have this space here, thanks to Spiritual Thought Leader, but then we are also alone because, as Kim said, grief is universal, but the uniqueness of the relationship with the person that we're grieving or the situation, that is what makes it seem a little bit more alone. So if you're out there in the chat and you're able to type in the chat, please share with us if you can identify that grief does indeed feel lonely. Even if you have a great support system, if you have, my husband's in the chat, even if you have a great husband, a great spouse, a great partner, sisters, amazing folks here on Twitch, all of that is wonderful, but somehow grief is one of those things that no matter how big life is, how many people are around, you still feel lonely. So please share with us if you'd like to, if you identify with that. Also, a lot of you are new here. So if you'd like to share anything about maybe someone or something you're grieving, we'd like to honor that and give you voice and a space to share that with us. So please share if you're on a grief journey or anything you'd like to share. We'd love to read it and support you today. So let me scroll back in the chat. Did I miss anything? Anyone? Fifi Turn, hey, how are you? Welcome. Good to see you over here. Nice to see you. Everybody, thank you so much for coming in. Let's see. Making sure I didn't miss any comments. That was an awesome raid, Uncle Diddy. Thank you. Oh, Star Summer Rose, you're sharing. Thank you. I lost my dog of 14 years a couple of weeks ago. Oh, that's so fresh. I'm so sorry. Oh, I know that is hard. That is very, very hard for people when you lose a pet and of 14 years. I'm so sorry. And sending you lots of hugs from over here in Crazy Berry Town to you. Shelly Thunder, it absolutely does. Though others can relate, others' relation to grief is not the same. For Shizzle, that was just terrible. That's so, for Shizzle, it's so 2000s. I don't know. Anyway, for
it's
sure.
Still working. It's still working. It's okay. Okay. For Shizzle.
Anyway, for sure, you're right. It is. Again, people say, I relate. I'm here for you, and it is. They're right. They are. They're truthful when they're there. When people say, I'm here for you, or call me anytime. Absolutely, and I believe people are genuine about it. But when you get into those quiet spaces, and you know what? Not even the quiet spaces. This is what I was just saying earlier. DJ Stacy Blessed one saying that she's just sort of feels like she's existing. You can be in a crowd of people and still feel lonely. That grief is so isolating sometimes. You could be in an arena of people and that gets down in there and you feel that loneliness kick in like a mug, no matter what, right? So even if you're not isolated, because I feel a lot of times my grief kind of comes up at night when I get quiet, which is why I've said probably 100 times here that I have a hard time sleeping at night because I hear the phone call about my mom. I hear my crying. I can see Captain Boots' face because I scared him half to death from screaming, So I feel most lonely at night. But I have experienced it at work, in the middle of an event we're having, or, in a group of people, having fun, having a good time, grand time. And I just, something will just come over me and I feel
Mhm.
that loneliness. So I agree that it can be both. We are
Yeah.
not alone. We have each other. We have amazing support. Kim offers, those of you who may not know, but Kim is a clergy member and offers support in her church. So you not only are you one that receives support because of grief, but you give it. So you are one of those people to say you are not alone. You have us here, as you were saying earlier. That the person you were talking to, you were saying you have support and a minister for as long as you want, but you have that. But again, that other side of the coin,
Hmm.
you feel alone. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
just take families, for instance, and siblings. Even siblings have different relationships with their parents, right? And
Yep.
so when, say, a parent dies, the relationship that each one of them had with their mom or dad is uniquely theirs.
That's true.
And, the family dynamics, all of that stuff start to come into play. And it's just, I liken it as unique as a fingerprint almost,
Mm.
because only your experience is your experience. So in those times when you're alone, like physically alone, or even in spaces like you just described where there's tons of people around, you could still be having this individual lonely experience of grief. But the collective experience of grief, that's what funerals are for. That's what memorials are for,
Mm.
so
That's a good
that
way.
people can come together in their time of grief and collectively share that time in that moment. That's why the reflections are important. Some people call them reflect expressions, where somebody gets up, shares a great story, they're reminiscing or
Yes.
whatever. And then you realize the impact that this person has had on so many lives. Yet when all of that is over, or even in the midst of that, you got a story too that
Mhm.
only you and that person may share. And only you can keep that story alive,
Yeah.
because the other person is no longer here. So I think that's a
That's
great
true.
quote, because when you read it the first time, I was like, "Hmm."
Right.
And then
Right.
I thought about it for a second. I said, you know what, that is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So what I read, everyone, is I just read the first few lines of this. I guess a writing that someone did on an Instagram post, and it says, "The truth is, you are alone in your grief. You alone carry the knowledge of how your grief lives in you. You alone have to face this inside your own heart." And that is what I think makes us feel that loneliness, is that it's in our heart, and those memories, that relationship. It's funny. Of course, my mom was very, everybody loved my mom. Our family, we were all really close. We have a small family anyway. But I remember at my mom's funeral, I looked over at my husband. He might still be here in the chat. I'm not saying anything bad about him. And I looked over. I mean, he was bawling, crying. But it was just, and I looked at that first. I was kind of like, okay, all right. I mean, all right. It's like, what are we doing? But it just kind of threw me a little bit. He had Captain Boots was sitting on his lap, but in that moment, I paused and I thought, he had his special relationship with her. Sure,
mhm,
he was, she was his mother-in-law, but they had a great relationship. But it was their own. They had their memories and their special moments and their times,
mhm,
and he was grieving that, in
mhm,
his way. And as we know too, sometimes grief triggers other losses as well. And
mhm,
he lost his mom before I lost mine. And so I know some of that was probably that as well. But in that moment, I was thinking, I get why he's crying like that. He's experiencing a loss, maybe obviously different than mine. I was her child, but they had a really great and a really special relationship.
mhm,
So that was an interesting thing.
mhm.
Jackie's, yes, it is lonely. I was diagnosed with breast cancer Halloween 2013 and had to have a mastectomy. I'm cancer free today. Praise the Lord. Uh,
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Lord. But the quietest is so loud in grieving the loss. Family and friends are here for me, but the grief never goes away, I look in the mirror every day, grateful to be here for my kids. And it's amazing, right? How we can feel grateful and there's so much to be thankful for, right?
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes that sadness is just there. It's just there. And I love that you shared this. Thank you, Jackie, for sharing about your journey. And we are so thankful that you are cancer free. That is a beautiful blessing. And I know October isn't October Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Yes. Yes.
So shout out to you and sharing that. But I'm also really thankful that you shared this because, as I said earlier, I'm not sure if you were here right after the raid came in. We don't always grieve losing a person or people. It's other things. It could be health related. Star Simmer Rose talked about losing her pet. One of the things that has come up a good bit in my research for the stream is grief around COVID. Not just losing people, but losing a way of life that's familiar and comfortable. People losing jobs. Yes, many, as we know, people have lost loved ones to COVID, including myself. I lost my brother. And some people who have had COVID are now dealing with long COVID and sort of that loss of, the grief of, I used to be a healthy person and here I get COVID and now I have lung disease or heart failure or whatever. So it's all of that. And so I appreciate you sharing that, Jackie. I really do. That's what we love about this space is it's a safe space. And we hope that those of you who are joining us for the first time today, you'll come back and just be, even if you're lurking, it's a safe, really great, fun in some ways, space for us to talk about grief. The Rebel. I grieved my job after I lost it. I didn't understand what was happening at the time, but now looking back, I was definitely grieving, depressed and all. Yeah, see again, jobs. We live in America where a lot of our identity is tied into our careers, right? It may not be you out there, but it's our society in general. That's how we live in America. And a lot of us, it's kind of seeped into us as well. And so when we lose a job, it's devastating and it can cause grief.
Yeah. I experienced that because I didn't think I was that person until I was let go. I never felt like I was the person that put my value or worth into what I did for a living. But when I was released from Turner Broadcasting, I was like, wait, what what am I supposed to be doing now? And I was in seminary at the same time. And God was very clear, your job is to go to school, not to get another job. Because I had other opportunities and every one of those opportunities fell through. So I had to reevaluate, literally go through a process of, I was depressed. I was just feeling like I'm just a student now versus being in management at Turner Broadcasting with all the perks and bells and whistles that come with that. And it took me a minute. I mean, that's when I started going to therapy because I was really just kind of having to understand how my life was shifting. Because, I mean, for me, just growing up in Atlanta, always being told you're going to go to college, you're going to get a good job, you're going to, and I had felt like I had achieved those things.
Yeah.
And for that to be taken away, it was like, what am I supposed to do now?
Right.
Because if I don't do that, what do I do? And, now I've found my life's purpose in doing what I do, but I didn't go willingly into this. I literally had to pray, trust, go to therapy, cry, and release it because it took a minute for me to do that. And I didn't realize until I started going to therapy that I was grieving the loss of not just the job, but the experience of going and having community with these people, because the whole department was let go. So it was just a lot going on. I had survived 3 other layoffs in the course of
Oh,
11 years.
yeah.
But then to be caught up in one, never thought. And I remember saying, if I'm gonna leave here, they're gonna have to put me out. So I'm not gonna willingly. And I guess the Lord was like, gotcha.
Touche. Touche,
You said
baby.
it. Okay, so I can make that happen for you. And that's exactly how it happened.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I grieved that for years until I
yeah.
finally got, and always still in the back of my mind was like, okay, if this ministry thing don't work out, I'm still gonna need a job. So what we gonna
Mhm.
do? But
Yeah.
you know, that and just relationships of people that I used to see and talk to all the time. It's like
Mhm. Just
this is
gone.
this is just gone.
Yeah.
You know, the configuration of a like a team or a group can become formative in your life. And then when that is pushed
Mhm.
away or dismantled in some way,
Yeah.
you grieve that as well. I remember
Yeah.
when one of my colleagues, and at that time he wasn't a colleague, he was in seminary before me, and he was moving back to Louisiana. And we used to get together and cut up every Sunday. And right before he left, we got circled up to pray. And he was like, and we like, come get in the circle. He's like, no, because this will be what will remain. I won't be here. And we all just bust out crying because it's like,
Mm.
you're right.
I would have
And have
cried
we
too.
ever been in that configuration together since? Nope.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's hard.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I feel like as I'm hoping to leave, like not just my job but change careers, I feel like I'm gonna feel that way. Not so much about the people because I don't really like a whole lot of people at my job. But anyway, but just I've been there for 21 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I was talking about this with my cousin and his wife. They're 27, 8, I think 28 maybe, and they were talking about how like this generation, they're not like they don't feel that loyalty
Mm-hmm.
to a job for that long, and I feel like I'm in my generation. I feel like we're that last group that feels like your identity and what you're supposed to do is tied to retiring from a job after God knows how many years. But I already like I'm preemptively like feeling like I'll feel something similar with a few people at my job, not a lot, but I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna miss that, and I'll be losing that, and
Mm-hmm.
losing. Um, I mean, for me, the biggest thing, honestly, is, and it's a whole nother stream, but I feel like I'll be losing that comfort and familiarity,
Mm-hmm.
just that routine of what I've been doing for 21 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's changed, of course, over the years,
Walking to
but
work every day.
walking to work. Right. I know. What if I get a job and I have to drive more than 5 miles? Oh my gosh.
Welcome to my world. You'll get to experience what that's like.
I know. Driving 1 mile to work for 21 years. Well, no, the first 8 years I drove to Lawrenceville, which is a good ways from here.
Mm-hmm.
But since 2008, I've been at Clarkston. So I've literally been a mile away. So even that like kind of stresses me out a little bit. And also too, the flexibility to be, in my opinion, an amazing mom.
Mm-hmm.
But the flexibility to, I'm that parent that can get away and do class parties and
Mm-hmm.
volunteer at lunch and recess, that kind of thing. I feel like I might be losing that. So honestly, that's partly why I've been dragging my feet a little bit in
Mm-hmm.
making that change. I feel like I don't need anything else. I don't need to grieve. I've got enough. I
Mm-hmm.
don't need
Mm-hmm.
anything else. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I want to go back real quick to author Javonda, because this is another example of grief, not in terms of losing a person, a loved one. And she said, this was a while back, I have a friend struggling with getting older. She's turning 50 and her body changes are bringing on depression that she's never experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And I have heard this, I've seen it on talk shows, whatever, but I know that that is also a huge part of life for people when they're turning a certain age. People joke around, oh, the midlife crisis or whatever, and guys go out and get motorcycles or whatever, big Harleys and stuff. Women get plastic surgery, whatever, sometimes. But deep down inside, what that is sort of grieving the loss of what they might think will become a was, right? My boobs were perkier, my face wasn't sagging, they're sort of projecting what they think it might be, and they're already sort of grieving that. And that's a serious thing. That is a very serious thing. So author Javonda, I appreciate you sharing that, because many people struggle with that and they're fearful. And here's the tea. For a very short period of time, I had like this like countdown in my head. I'm terrible, y'all. My brain is just, you all know me, I'm weird. But what I learned after my mom died is that her two siblings that died before her, they were all 68, and my mom was 68. We didn't really put it together until I was doing her obituary, and I had to pull up the dates that they passed. And someone in their crazy mathematical mind was like, wait, they were all 68 when they died. And so here I am now on this countdown in my mind. I'm like, well, that's it. 68 is it for me, and I'm out of here. And so I'm like counting down, okay, year 2, whatever. And it was very fearful, and I'm like, okay, well, when I hit 50, that means I'm going to have 18 more years, and it's just foolishness, right? I say it's foolishness now, but I mean, at the moment when I thought about it, because it was very fresh in losing my mom, it was early on, it was all of that grief and fear and anger, the unknown, all of that was just all tied up. And I was a hot mess. So for me, that getting to a certain age, it gave me a little bit of pause, because I kept thinking, okay, well, that means I have this many years, and then Trey will be such and such age, and all this just craziness. So for me, I experienced that in a different way, but I know getting older for people is very scary. And I get that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Jackie, yes, therapy is definitely the way for many people. And if it isn't, it should be at least considered. So,
even if it's using your EAP benefits, if just to have some sessions to go see somebody just to get it out, that's helpful as well.
I agree. Yeah, it was so funny. I was at open enrollment last year, and we had all the vendors and stuff. And so there was a table for those benefits like therapy or whatever, and like nobody would stop by. And I was like, y'all,
of course not.
Because I know you, and I know you, and all y'all need therapy. So let me take you to the table, okay? But anyway, I stopped by the table though. I was like, at least let me see what I think I know. At least I thought I knew what we had to offer, but I didn't. They had revamped some things, and the university system actually pays for more than I thought. So I'm glad I stopped by, but I felt kind of sad for them. I'm like, nobody's come. Let me come over here and talk to you.
That's really sad, because
but nobody was. People literally skip it.
Because people don't want other people to know that they need the resources when actually all of us need the resources.
Right. I know. It's just walk by the table and like grab a brochure as you're walking, or something,
I don't want nobody to see me over here at this table. I don't want nobody to think something wrong with me.
Exactly.
When something is wrong with you, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's why now I'm sitting there looking at people like, now I know you. Okay. Like you. Let's go. Anyway, Team No Pants says, I was already in therapy when my dad passed. If I hadn't been, I don't know that if it would have occurred to me to go. Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes too, here's the thing about grief, right? One thing too about grief is your mind is just not, at some points, it's just not, you're not thinking straight. So something today in 2022 that seems obvious to me, like, okay, Tracy, go get therapy. In 2017, right after my mom died, I might not have considered that, just because like I wasn't thinking straight. So I think you're right. It was probably helpful that you were already in therapy, because I'm sure maybe we'll talk about that one day, the science of grief. Like I'm sure there's something in our brain when we have a trauma, which Kim has talked about a good bit here, how grief and trauma are tied together, but it has to do something to our brains. Because again, what I see now, like if I look back on the Tracy of, Tracy is me, y'all, by the way, of 2017, after August 2017, when my mom died, that's a different Tracy, who was sitting around in circles, crying every 5 minutes, probably for the rest of the year, just Looney Tunes, right? In my mind. But now things that I was probably wouldn't even think of or consider, I see them clearly now. Grief, truck driver said it way back in the stream, said grief is a mofo. He's right.
Mm-hmm.
Grief is funky,
Yeah.
and it is physical. We've talked in this chat about in the stream about how tiring and exhausting grief is. It's obviously mentally exhausting, and it just your wires just get crossed. I don't even know any other way
Mm-hmm.
to say it. So thank God, Team No Pants, you were already in therapy, and I'm sure that helped as a way,
Mm-hmm.
after your father passed, which we are also sorry to hear about that. And I'm pretty sure I remembered you mentioning that. I don't know if it was on your stream or somewhere else, maybe in my stream, I don't know. But I think I remember hearing about you losing your father, and so we're sorry to
Mm-hmm.
hear that, and sending love your way. Yes, Ms. Only One Mrs. Cox, we all need those resources. And sometimes what's interesting about those resources is um, it's not necessarily for something bad. And I think that's what people think of when they think therapy. Sometimes it's purely just for support. Like you might like I had even considered like going to like talk to someone about my fear of change. I have a real it's like a paralysis. It's bad. Um I joke with myself, and you all know I'm self-deprecating, and I joke a lot. But I joke with myself. I'm like, I have all these big plans to leave my job, and I'm going to be off, working remotely and making all this money, whatever. And I was like, yeah, probably 20, 30 years from now, I'll still be over in Clarkston at Perimeter. So, because I know me, like I know, like I get stuck, and I get part of the part of it again is that fear. Of something different and the unknown. Um, if someone were to say, what is a good thing? We've talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about some of the good things that have come out of our grief. And if I can say one good thing that's come out of it is that I know that like I was forced into the change of living and walking this earth without my mother. I'm still here. Because prior to August 25th, 2017, I would have told anybody, well, I'm just going to get in the casket with her. Okay. So you just get ready. Goodbye, Earth, because I'm out, right? In my mind. So I'm thinking, I'm still here and I'm thriving and I feel like I'm okay. Of course, I'm still, we have those grief moments and I miss her and all of that. But I know that the change, I'm still here, and I was expecting that kind of change to be permanently catastrophic. It was for a moment. It was catastrophic. It was an earthquake for me. And so I feel like, I want to sort of talk that out with someone. So therapy is not always because something happened, now you go to a therapist. It might be you need a breakthrough. It might be you need just some kind of support. Maybe you're thinking of making some changes. You want to open a business. You whatever. I don't know. You want to travel around the world and you just need to talk it out. You need some support, right?
Mm-hmm.
So therapy is not always a correction of something bad. It could be. It could be something trauma related. It could be grief. But it doesn't always have to be that way. So the word for the day is therapy is great.
Therapy is great.
Yeah.
Therapy, get into it.
Get into it. Yeah. Team No Pants. It was in 2018 on the second day of the semester. Oh wow, 2018. So that's not that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Only One Mrs. Cox. I was in therapy prior to my mom's passing. I was dealing with having to leave my job to become my dad's full-time caregiver. No regrets. Yeah. Miss Frosty, I used to get tired of people saying you're strong. We were just talking about that earlier. But deep down inside, I knew I didn't feel that way. Yeah, Kim Possible was just talking about that and that word strong. So it's, it just happened at the right time that you said that because we were just talking about that. Team No Pants, she was talking to Only One Mrs. Cox. Okay. Let's see. Yes, therapy is great. You need that third impartial party for all this craziness out there for sure. Yeah, we need that.
Yeah.
Impartial, you can walk away, they can walk away, whatever, and it's out there,
Mhm.
no judgment, no, and here's the thing, I mean, in many cases, if nothing else, you walk away with some tools, some new tools in your tool belt and some strategies and tips for whatever it is you go for. So, I mean, that can't be a bad thing. But some of us, we just have that hang up about therapy.
Mhm.
Um, well, Mrs. Cox, I was a radiology, oncology biller and coder, which became overwhelming. I was reading what I went through with cancer. Yeah. So yeah, I see why you don't have any regrets from leaving your job. Yeah.
Mhm.
That probably
Mhm.
became just too much. Just too much. All dealing with cancer and then seeing those terms and in the medical billing and all of that. Yeah. And therapy, I'm sort of putting these pieces of the puzzle together.
Mhm.
Hopefully, or it sounds like it helped you kind of navigate that. That's
Mhm.
not a bad thing, right? That's a
No.
good thing. Look at where you are now.
Mhm.
So I'm glad therapy was brought up because one of the things we say here is we're not therapists. This is purely our
Mhm.
experience, and you all sharing your experience and just supporting each other. We are
Yeah.
not therapists. So, when we're getting close to our time, I'll be in Discord. I think the link has been scrolling through the chat, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yes.
Spiritual Thought Leader has a Discord, and we hang out in there some weeks if we're available to do so. So I'll be over there in just a few minutes after we stream. If you'd like to join us to sort of literally give voice, you are able, or you are welcome rather to do that. We'll be over in Discord in the STL Cafe video, I think. Is that what it is? STL Video Cafe, one of those. Just look for where you see other names,
Yeah.
okay? Just
Look for Rebel.
look for
Look for
Rebel.
Rebel's name.
You know what it
That's how I know where to go.
Me too. I saw someone else the other day or whatever it was, and we were in the wrong place. But I should have followed Rebel, but I followed this other person. And we were
Mhm.
both in the wrong place. Tagada. So, so follow
Yeah.
Rebel, and that's where we'll be. But we just come over there and just give a little more support. It's also a place for you to speak if you'd like. If you want to come and just listen in, you do not have to talk. We're not going to force you to. But it is just, again, another layer of support. One of the things, again, that I always say I love about the stream is that we give voice to our grief. We give voice to the people and the situations that we're grieving. And it's just a beautiful thing. And so I'm so thankful for the raid today to get more people over here to just
Mm.
to be a part of our community. And hopefully you will all come back. So thank you so much. I will do my normal little sign off. Again, thank you, Spiritual Thought Leader, for this space. Rebel, thank you so much for your support. And to everyone listening, if you're lurking or you're in the chat, please find the joy. There's something to find the joy in every day. A cup of coffee, a walk in the park, a good movie, going to bed a little bit earlier. I don't know. Find the joy in something every day because you are worth it and you deserve it. And one more time, a shout out to Uncle Diddy for the raid. We
Thank you,
truly
Uncle
appreciate it.
Daddy.
Kim.
Yes. So don't forget, we're over in the Discord. We also have in STL's Discord the Win Phone,
Yes.
which is an awesome opportunity that Crazy Berry Town brought to us where you can just write a note to your loved one. It is mirrored after someone putting an actual payphone like thing in their backyard to call their loved one, just to chat, knowing that there's no one on the other end, but just for them to be able to talk to their loved one. So we created a makeshift Win phone, and there's tons of entries out there from different people. So that's a resource for you to be able to use as well. And just remember that grief is a process. So give yourself some grace as you grieve. And we'll see you next week and hopefully over in the Discord. So
Yes.
bye.
Bye. Hey, Dendarn.